My name is Mary Winstead, and this is my resurrection story. I was born in a home with fourth generation Nazarenes. My great-grandparents were very instrumental in starting the Nazarene Church in this Middle Tennessee area. The first place I went was to church, and I was 8 days old. I have 3 siblings, and I am the youngest. And my grandmother was the biggest inspiration in my following Christ. I accepted Christ when I was 6 years old at the bedside of my grandmother. We had a really good childhood. I went to a 2-room schoolhouse till I was in the 3rd grade, and then I moved to school in McEwen. Then after 1 year there, my dad accepted work that would cause us to travel. My summers were spent at my grandmother's here back in McEwen, and we attended church faithfully. When we were young, we would go swimming at the creek, and Dr. Ray Dunning's wife was our pastor's wife, and she would come and sit on the creek bank and read us missionary books. Dr. Dunning played a huge part in my teenage years. If I didn't understand anything, all I had to do was go to Dr. Dunning and ask. We moved back here when I was a freshman in high school, so I finished all of my high school years in McEwen, and I was still very much dedicated to Christ. When I graduated high school, I went to college, and that was the first time I had ever really been away from home, which the college was in Nashville, so it wasn't that far, but to me it was. And after I was in college, we started in September. My dad died at the age of 44 in November. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was lost without a rock, but I knew I had a Savior. I finished college and went to work. I always come home every weekend and went to church. One weekend when I was home, Mac come to church, which he was also raised in that church but did not attend regularly. As we were leaving church that morning, he asked me, "What are you doing for dinner?" I said, "I don't know. You'll have to ask Mother. She's the cook." So of course Mother invited him to come to dinner, and he's been eating dinner with me ever since, and that was 44 years ago. We really started dating in August and was married in November. I had an uncle who come to me and told me, he said, "Mary, you know Mac likes to fish and hunt, so he won't be at church with you all the time." And I told him that I had prayed about it, and I knew that Mac was the person for me. He's always went to church with me, and my uncle sometimes would miss church, and I would have to remind him of what he missed. We went through some difficult times trying to conceive a child. So it was 5 years and several miscarriages before we had Stephanie, but she was our little miracle. After she was born, we dedicated her to Christ. We prayed and asked God for another child. We conceived Nicole, and I had no problems with that pregnancy. Our marriage has been a really good marriage. I know no one wants to believe us, but we really never had a fight. As Max says, when one of us is mad, the other walks away, and vice versa. God has been the center of our marriage. As one of the girls was older and was going through a rebellious time, I had to keep reminding myself of that. I would put her on the altar, but I would pick her up and take her back. Finally, God reminded me that you gave her to me when she was a child. Everything worked itself out. Over the years, I have held many offices in the church, but several years ago, we felt the call that we needed to leave the church that I grew up in, and that was very hard. I didn't understand why I was leaving at first, but I knew God had a reason. So, as every other thing in our life, we prayed about it, and God led us here to WCN, and we are so blessed. I'd always prayed that I wanted to go on a mission trip. So I had the opportunity to go to Mississippi on a mission trip, and we jumped on it, and we loved every minute of it. The call for missions is so important. But another thing that's important to us is tithing. We feel that everything we have is God's, and we're just the stewards for a short time. And one day as I was praying, God led me to want to give twice as much as He required. I told Mac. Mac said, "That's fine with me. You know our finances better than I do." And I told him, I said, "Well, this is God." So, for many years now, we have done that. I'm so blessed with our girls and the people that they have chose as mates for their lives. God bless Stephanie with 2 little girls, and then God bless Nicole with Davis. As most of you know, Nicole was diagnosed with cancer when Davis was 3 months old. I'll never forget at 2 o'clock in the morning getting a call and saying, "Mom, I have cancer." Mac and I jumped up and rushed to her house, and there we prayed, and I saw God at work every day with a radiant smile on her face. When we got the news that she was cancer-free, we were overjoyed, and even the doctors told her that it was God. But she was told she could never conceive, and when we got that news, I was with her, and Brooklyn and Kaylee, my little granddaughters, and Davis. As we were coming home from Nashville, Nicole and I were talking about it, and she said, "Mom, all my legs are destroyed." So we thank God for the blessing of Davis and for what she had. Little did we know Kaylee was sitting in the back seat listening, and she said, "Well, Rudy," Nicole's nickname, "I'll pray that God gives you an egg for Christmas." Nicole and I laughed like Kaylee thinks you can just wrap one up and put under the Christmas tree as your prize present, the faith of a child. Nicole conceived, Kaylee's prayers were answered, and we have a little miracle baby, Reed. I'm Mary Winstead. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me.